Right, let's talk about players that have had a glow up this year.
Mm.
And the thing to remember, and actually what I might do, I'm going to go a bit backwards here. I'm going to start with someone that I was like, where were they on the 1st of January? And in terms of that glow up. Now, you can't do this for all of them. But I was looking at Liam Delap and I was thinking, where was he playing at the start of 2024?
Yeah.
And he was playing on the right wing for Hull City, losing 3-1 to Sheffield Wednesday away in the first game of January. He actually had some good colleagues amongst him. Tyler Morton in that team. Jacob Greaves had a nice little glow up himself. Aaron Connolly up top. So Liam Delap not even starting as that central striker. So let's kick off with Liam Delap just to kind of show someone who's playing in a team that's getting pumped by Sheffield Wednesday. No disrespect to Sheffield Wednesday. They've done incredibly well in 2024 themselves. But is now kind of... He's had a proper glow up. He was someone who was getting close to being a young prodigy that didn't seem to be able to kick on, struggled with a few loans in the Championship, and it's all kind of come together. So his market value was 6.5 million at the start of the year. It's now 13 million. Not everyone's market value has gone up, but there's other aspects to it as well. How are you feeling about Liam Delap?
Absolutely love him.
Yeah?
Absolutely love him. Eerily reminiscent career path in terms of what Harry Kane did. Loans to Championship clubs, playing out of position. Oh, it's not really working. But the thing about Liam Delap is that during his time at Man City's academy, when you're playing PL2, you're playing a very certain type of football that's more akin to the football played in the Premier League as opposed to the Championship, where it's a completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised that loans didn't necessarily work out as we expected when he scored 8 league goals though at Hull, so he wasn't terrible and he wasn't playing down the middle. But he's a Premier League footballer. He is a Premier League footballer, and he's showing it. The versatility of finishing, his first touch, his ability. He's just his physicality as well. I know that physicality translates to the Championship, but it's a different sort of physicality. You can tell that he's kind of played or trained with Erling Haaland because the way he uses his strength is very domineering. I absolutely love him, man. I think he can go right to quite Harry Redknapp. He's going right to the very top. And we've seen that for a while. We've heard talks about Liam Delap. And like you say, it hasn't necessarily worked out. But when I'm looking at the thread that runs through England strikers, right? England, despite England's faults at international level, there's always been that guy up front. If I can take it back to not what I can remember, what I know. So from Gary Lineker through to Alan Shearer, through to Michael Owen, through to Wayne Rooney, through to Harry Kane. Liam Delap's the next one. People want to talk about Ollie Watkins. Really? Yes, for sure. I think he's the truth, man. I really like him. It's the versatility of finishing. I remember the game against Villa where he scored 2 very different goals. I was like, whoa. Oof. Yeah, he's good. He's really good. What about you? What do you think about him?
I'm sort of I think he's got all the criteria there. I think I like that he's a bit of a bully. I think he left one on Mazraoui last week, and I was as a neutral, I was like, yeah. I'm fine with that. I quite like it. And then he's got the sort of after that moment, it wasn't like, some players might go, what? A little bit scared. He just sort of like looked at him, had that sort of like, he's got that Vardy nastiness, but he's got, he's thick, isn't he? I can't remember who was saying it, but the way that players seem to bounce off him as well means that, some people are just strong. I think he's got that in him. We had Harry Brooks on the pod last week. He was talking about him saying that he has that mindset of needing goals. I want goals. That's what I'm really bothered about. And I think you've seen that with one of the goals that he's scored so far this season, 6 goals and 1 assist in 13 matches, but also from long range, happy to take a shot, something that we're kind of feels like we're seeing less and less. But I like it when I want my striker to be a bit of a dick. I want them 100%. To be selfish. I want them to go, well, no, yeah, but if I haven't really scored, then I'm a little bit annoyed for I'm okay with that.
It's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. I think you have to have, I've always felt that you've got to have different kind of personalities so that you've got that calm in those moments. And I like that about him. I'll be honest, I've seen him a few times at Loftus Road. He looked the part, wasn't really seeing much. But something seems to have ignited in him. And the thing I would say kind of leads into the second pod that we're going to do. But in terms of having a great year next year or just having a great career, stay put at Ipswich. Because I think if Ipswich can stay up this season with the players that they've got, I see the sort of maybe like the Bournemouth trajectory where those players have that first year where they're thinking, are we good enough? And the adrenaline gets you over the line. Second year, go, no, we are good enough. And you get some more additions as well. And I think that Ipswich squad and team could get better and better, and he could lead the line. Because the thing that's going to be important for him, which I like, is that he's had those loans, he's gone out and had that development. He needs to continue that playing week in, week out in the Premier League. I think there'll be some bumps in the road.
There will be.
I will say.
I look at it, and again, I hope Ipswich stay up. I think most neutrals do. I don't know if they do. And if they don't, then the important thing, again, football it's mostly about what you do on the pitch. It's about what you do off the pitch as well. The move he makes after Ipswich, if they do go down, is so, so important. Because he's a player that needs to feel the love and needs to feel like he's the man. I saw him linked to Chelsea. I said, mate, don't join us. Don't join us.
Don't Dewsbury Hall it.
Yeah, don't Dewsbury Hall it.
I'm amazed that they're in the bottom three, Ipswich. It's weird that, isn't it?
It is strange. It seems like they've had really positive results recently. I know it's tough in the Premier League because it's been a really, really weird season in terms of results. But you look at Ipswich, and the win against Spurs obviously was their most memorable win in the last 20, 30 years.
A lot of draws in there.
Yeah. Thrown away some games as well, Ipswich. But I really like them. And I feel like, considering a lot of this team are playing in League One a few years ago, they've done very, very well to equip themselves. I think they just need to translate some of those good performances into wins, because it's up for grabs down there. It is up for grabs.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, definitely had a glow up this year, this calendar year. That's the thing to remember here. Andre Onana. Actually, his market value's gone down from 33 million to, it's on Transfermarkt, from 33 million to 29. But I think if you think of the first 6 months that he had at Man United, the struggles there, the sort of poor, what felt like really poor goalkeeping. The one game springs to mind, the Bournemouth away game, where Dominic Sankey's just kind of had a shot and he's just not even really kind of ready to go from that point of view. But he was playing, he has been playing in a poor Man United side over last year that has been giving chances away as well. He's made the most saves of any Premier League goalkeeper last season, 147. While still keeping the fifth most clean sheets in the league. Man United are mad, aren't they?
They're strange. The stats don't make sense.
Yeah. How good is he? Because Kai's put something in here that I'm not having it. And I thought this as I read it. I was like, if he was playing it with a better defence, would he be considered the best goalkeeper in the league? And I was like, I did the Mourinho headphones. So what are you?
Not in the Premier League.
Steady on.
Not in the Premier League, just because of his ability to come for crosses. I think that's his biggest weakness. But great shot stopper, great at the ball at his feet. And I really, really like him. For me, again, that's why it's great in terms of the calendar year, the clear demarcation, because I was at AFCON, which was at the beginning of the year.
There was a lot of drama with him.
He missed the first game. Like, he played for Manchester United, I can't remember against who, and he missed Cameroon's first game. Was very, very bad at AFCON. Cameroon went out in the round 16 to Nigeria, and a disappointing performance. They were just terrible. And I remember thinking, this is not it. And I've got to be honest, the stigma when it comes to black goalkeepers is very interesting, right? There's only been a few that have succeeded. Edouard Mendy had an incredible 18 months, won Keeper of the Year, won the Champions League, won AFCON, and then fell off a cliff. And then when you saw Onana at Inter Milan and you saw how good he was in that Champions League final that they lost, and he was the Champions League Keeper of the season, you thought, okay, cool, this is one that you can actually hang your hat on. Came to Manchester United, and amidst the turmoil and the chaos, and the fact that he didn't start off well, it was just like, he's just not the guy. Hasn't got the concentration levels. Pulls off some spectacular saves, but to be a keeper, you need to be concentrated 24/7.
Just to stop it, can I ask you about
of course.
about being something around black goalkeepers? What? Explain that to me.
Well, there's just like a stigma that black people can't be goalkeepers, and like, if you talk amongst the black community, we don't want to be goalkeepers. we want to play with the ball at our feet. We want to be out there. Yeah. And so when you see a black goalkeeper, you almost have, even though he's playing for Manchester United, I'm rooting for him, because it's not really a thing, really. When Edouard Mendy turned up and was amazing at Chelsea, it was a shock to the system.
Is this a similar thing to like wide receivers in American football, where wide receivers are, fast, and therefore the black players go there,
100%.
Whereas the sort of the smarter position of quarterback is one that is reserved for white people.
And then you see it and that's why it's an interesting one, because the NFL is changing right now. It's changing from, like, most of the quarterbacks that you have are now athletic black quarterbacks that are coming out of college. Right. And with goalkeepers, because you are now asking them to play with the ball at their feet, you're going to see a wave of black goalkeepers coming through, because the position's changed.
Get lots of touches.
You get lots of touches of the ball. You touch the ball more than maybe a striker does throughout the game. So for Onana, that stigma was there with him, and I do feel that added to the media perception and the noise around Onana, just because it's not. I don't think it's conscious in most people's cases, but it's like, oh, he lacks concentration, he's this, he's that.
Yeah.
But he did, and you can't deny it when you see it. But
My thing with him was that he was. I thought he was. I thought he was too sort of loud in the press.
yes, yeah.
I thought it was one where, like, when you're going through a tricky time, just kind of keep your head down.
You
a
need your
little
keepers
bit, you
to
know?
keep your head down. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear from a keeper. I don't know what a keeper sounds like. I only really heard what Petr Cech's voice sounded like when he became like director of football at
Right,
Chelsea.
yeah.
You don't want to hear from your goalkeeper. You don't want
Mm.
any drama around your goalkeeper, because you can pull off 5 or 6 amazing saves, but if you have that moment and that lapse in concentration, it all falls down.
Yeah.
Case in point, David De Gea. David De Gea for 5 or 6 years was best keeper in the world because he was making incredible saves. But then, I don't know what happened, but the concentration and the lapses in concentration just led to his demise. And with Onana, I thought we were going in that direction. But if you're being objective and you're being serious and you watch Manchester United every week this season, he's been very, very
Great.
good.
Yeah. And actually, you know, there's 2 ways of doing it, isn't there? Like, first of all, I think the sort of the mental critique and judgment. The critique and judgment of a goalkeeper, full stops, sort of mental side is much higher than other positions, because you know that you want that sense of calm. You want that kind of people being like not being sort of wobbly, and it's God. I'd hate to be a goalkeeper. It'd scare the shit out of me.
It's the worst position to play. Like, because you do get adulation, you
Mm.
do, but I've been on some podcasts and people are saying Ederson's the worst keeper in the Premier League. Like,
Slow down.
slow down.
But yeah, but for Onana, like from that you know, mindset standpoint, and again, I'll refer to Harry Brooks. It's interesting a few times when he's talking about players that he's working with, talks about their mindset. I think that's really, really interesting. And I think there is this new wave of young players that have just watched every Michael Jordan clip, and they've grown up on Ronaldo and Messi, and they know they know how to fake it till they make it, or to sort of posture it till they get through it, if that makes sense. And I think Onana, in that sense, that, like, for me, maybe being a bit too British and maybe a bit too white, I was kind of like, stop talking, just kind of get through it. But actually, that gave having that resolve from a point of posture has maybe led to him kind of being able to get through the other side. I was never doubted that he was going to be the long-term goalkeeper for Man United. I guess the only thing you wonder is, say with David De Gea, as good as he was, there were always question marks.
Yes.
Always. Even though he won like Player of the Year, like how many times.
Yeah.
Onana, I think they're washing away. But I guess with the goalkeeper, you're never too far away from that.
I do think in the Premier League, though, you're always going to be at a deficit, or there's going to be issues if you're not great at coming for crosses. I think that you can be as good with the ball at your feet, but sometimes you need to alleviate pressure. Yeah. And that's a huge part of being a goalkeeper at a top club. That's why I think David Raya is incredible.
Well, do you know what? He's not on our list, but actually he's got to be in there, hasn't he? In terms of, like, just sort of Gary Neville was after him.
Yeah,
so
he was.
much.
He was. He had an agenda. He had something in there.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was on it. And David Raya he's been the goalkeeper of the year, hasn't he? For the calendar year.
Oh, mate, he's been amazing. I was at the Chelsea Arsenal game and just watching the difference in goalkeepers.
Really?
Raya is shorter than Robert Sanchez. Raya is like Sanchez. If you to build a goalkeeper, he'd look like Robert Sanchez, but it's what's up there. And David Raya doesn't. He's got amnesia. Say there is something where he just drops it. He doesn't remember it. And the next time he's still playing that difficult pass. And Jason Cundy brought up something. Well, not even brought it up. He just mentioned something that was very, very poignant to me. I was just like, with goalkeepers, you're asking technically the worst player on the pitch to make the most difficult passes. The most consequential passes. Maybe not the most difficult. Time after time after time. And to do that, you have to have amnesia. I've seen Alisson give the ball away. I've seen Alisson make a host of mistakes, but he doesn't remember those mistakes. Yeah. And that's what makes the best goalkeeper. We saw Martinez against Chelsea, gave the ball away to Nicolas Jackson, but got that amnesia. Forgets about it straight away.
Sure, it's probably the same at both ends of the pitch.
Yeah.
Same with the strikers.
Yes.
Strikers need to be able to forget that straight away as well. But yeah, David Raya definitely he's come to fruition, hasn't he? Which is well, he's blossomed. There we go. We got that there. Let's go to Chelsea. Nicolas Jackson. His market value's popped up a little bit, 29 mil up to 33 million, which feels low, but transfer market is always a bit more sensible. Here's a ripple for you. The aesthetic of Nicolas Jackson means he gets disrespected more than he should. So Yeah, Kai put this forward, and we chatted about it with Matisse actually a couple of weeks ago. So interesting to get your take on it. Jackson scored 15 goals in 29 matches this season, essentially scoring a goal every other game. Already has 8 goals this season and 3 assists too. Darwin Núñez, a player that is often compared to Jackson, has 8 goals in 29 matches played. Is Nicolas Jackson underrated to you?
Yes.
And if so, why?
Yes. Because football fans are beholden to agenda, and the worst thing that you can do as a football fan is not change your opinion based on new information. We all remember what Nicolas Jackson was like last season, profligate in front of goal. The hat-trick against Spurs, he probably could have had 5 or 6 goals. In highly televised games, Nicolas Jackson missed some big chances. But if you're reframing your opinion based on new information that you've seen at the second half of last season and the beginning of this season, he's one of the best strikers in the Premier League. Right. And bear in mind, when he joined for Villarreal, he wasn't an out-and-out striker. It was his first season in the Premier League. He was playing under Pochettino, who had a certain style of football. In pre-season, he looked really good, dovetailing with Christopher Nkunku. Nkunku got injured, and it was really Jackson up top by himself, isolated, and Palmer's providing that secondary striker role. But Nicolas Jackson this season has been absolutely incredible. He's been very, very, very good. And we talk about missing chances. We still have those elements in his game. We saw it in the Brighton game where he could have scored at least 2 or 3. But what he's doing for Chelsea, that's going under the radar. He scored our early goal. So Nicolas Jackson scored within the first 10 minutes, and it changes the whole feeling of the game.
Yeah.
And it's so important. And when I'm watching him develop and I'm seeing the mentality, the thread, again, talk about the thread of English strikers, the thread that runs through Chelsea's successful strikers is the mentality. From Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank to Didier Drogba to Diego Costa, it's the fact that, you can put the ball in the back of the net, but you've got that nastiness as well. You've got that want to be the man. He wants to be the man, and at the moment, he is the man.
I think in terms of the comparison with Darwin Núñez, I agree with you. In terms of that early goal as well, the goal I was like, oof, was the Leicester goal.
Yes.
Which little touch, then Bosch just kind of saw it and did it. Technically great, sort of spotted the moment, was quick to react. But I think environment's important here as well, because if we put Darwin Núñez and Nicolas Jackson here, so first of all, Darwin Núñez steps into a team far more established, a team where if he looks to his right, depends which way he's facing, if he's facing the goal and looks to his right, he sees a proven goal scorer that will kind of get you out of trouble a lot of the time. And so in terms of scoring the goals, if you don't have Mohamed Salah, you would be going to Darwin Núñez, you would go, come on, you have to score all the goals for this team. Now, I know Cole Palmer has scored a lot of goals this year, but I think with Nicolas Jackson being that striker, he stepped into an environment where you've had this really long curse of strikers at Chelsea that haven't kind of worked. The team was struggling, not beating teams it should do, and he's the striker. So there did feel like a bigger burden on him last year than before. This year, I think the team's playing far better. He looks so much more comfortable. He's had so much more experience playing Premier League football. And so therefore it's clicking for him that little bit more. And the other thing I think with Darwin Núñez, and I love Darwin Núñez, I've really turned in terms of just enjoying what that is. But it's you have to just accept and enjoy the chaos when it comes to Darwin Núñez. Whereas I think Nicolas Jackson is a little bit more refined.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the goals. I think the thing is that a lot of these chances felt like one-on-one kind of moments last year, and like you say, he wasn't taking those moments. But those again are quite tricky ones to take, especially if your confidence is a little bit low. I said it on Sky the other day, especially with the run of games that they've got. By February, he'll be on 15 goals. Easy.
Yes.
Easy.
Yeah, like you say, fixture list has been favourable to Chelsea throughout a busy period where there are going to be games.
Sorry, he's actually on 15 goals in 29 matches already, but Premier League goals. I meant Premier League goals.
Yeah.
I think that's in all competitions. Another ex-Chelsea player, Ross Barkley. Now, we've put Ross Barkley in terms of the glow-up, just because if you think of kind of where he was, he was sort of one of those, Englishmen abroad that we just didn't really see much of. Again, I'm not sure, this isn't the good ripple effect. I'm not sure about this one, Kai, but we'll read it out. His market value's gone up 1.1 million from 5.5 to 6.6. So did Barkley lasering off his Everton tattoo save his career? Now, Kai is an Everton fan, and what I think he's hinting at here is that Everton are cursed. Anyway, believe it or not, Ross Barkley once had a sleeve tattoo on his arm, and a large section of the tattoo was taken up by the date in which he made his Everton debut. But when he transferred to Chelsea and the Everton fans turned on him, the tattoo was lasered off. So who's to say two things are related? But let's read between the lines. However, the burn bridge with Everton may have led him signing for Luton last year, despite Everton really needing a midfielder of his profile at the time. And within the space of a year, he's gone from playing in a struggling Luton team to now playing Champions League football. Are you surprised by the life and times of Ross Barkley since he's kind of been with you, been at Chelsea?
It's a tough one, Ross Barkley. I've always loved him. Like when he was at Everton, I was like, oh, that's a player. Physicality, great ball at his feet, just had an eye for goal as well when he was younger. And then I think
Kind of Gaza thing was chucked to
it
him as well.
It was chucked to him, and lost the love at Everton. Came to Chelsea. It was a dodgy period for Chelsea under different managers. Didn't necessarily work out, and had to go and find himself. Like I say, he went abroad. Then he went to Luton. The move to Luton was an absolute godsend for Ross Barkley in terms of being the most creative player in the team that was struggling. So you do
Different
stand
role
out.
too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And look at Aston Villa this season. I was talking to Dan Bardell, Villa fan, and there was a point in the season where it was like, oh, if Ross Barkley ain't available, it's not fit, we're going to be struggling here.
Wow.
And so you've got to credit him for finding that Indian summer in his career. He's only 30 years old still.
Really?
Like Ross Barkley could feasibly go to the next World Cup and it wouldn't be out of the question. But at Aston Villa, he's got a slightly different role. He's not the swashbuckling centre midfielder that maybe can play in that 10 position. He's a little bit deeper, a little bit more composed. The ball comes to him and he's thinking. Yeah. And you saw that at Luton, whereas at Chelsea, at Everton, ball comes to him and the first touch is boom, out of your feet.
Yeah.
I think it helps he's in an environment that he knows. Obviously, he was at loan at Villa a few seasons ago, so he knows the football club. But I just really like him. I always root for Ross Barkley because, again, when you're younger, you're just looking at players like, oh, he can be a player. He's always got the ability, but just never really worked out for him. I think the timeline for Ross Barkley and where football went didn't necessarily align, but at Aston Villa, he's shown that he's still a quality player.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's got the technical ability to dribble out of trouble if he needs to, but he's kind of become a bit more of a controller, more than like you say, more than a sort of, I think he kind of wanted to be Gerard Gascoigne, kind of like box to box.
Roberto Martinez, when he was at Everton, said he's a mixture between Gaza and somebody else, right. Gaza and Michael Ballack, and I was just like, that's, you're killing him. You're killing him. And he was, in terms of talent wise, he was that good, but it took him a little while to find his feet, and now he's like we said, he's playing for a Champions League team in Aston Villa, so credit to him. It's
great, man. Yeah, I think it's working for him like that, and he's sort of, as I say, I think they're in a tough time at the moment, Villa, which I thought would happen with the amount of games that they were playing, but when they were playing a bit better earlier in the season, it was him sort of coming on for the last 30 minutes, and as I say, just kind of like managing the game. Like, it's weird, isn't it? He feels like a bit of an elder statesman. As you say, he's not that old. Cole Palmer, I mean, good God, what a glow up he's had. He's gone from a market value of 37 million at the start of the year to 75 and the rest.
And the rest, mate.
Out of Europe's top 5 leagues, Cole Palmer is 10th on the top scorers list for 2024 with 26 goals. 3 Premier League hat-tricks in 2024 and a couple of in those 3 hat-tricks, it includes a couple of 4-goal hauls. And he is in the top 10 for assists this year as well. Honestly, ridiculous year for him. The comparison I wanted to put forward, we were talking about a bit earlier. Do you know what is he the Liam Gallagher of the Premier League?
Go on.
So I just think, like, we're seeing it on Twitter and things can turn one of two ways, right? And there's a feeling that he's maybe not the most intelligent because of the interviews are a bit dry. But you could turn your nose up at Liam Gallagher in the same way, but at the same time, he's rock and roll, and he's like his own guy. And at some point, it gets to a point where, like, do you know what, actually, whatever this is, I'm here for it.
I can't even explain to you, James. He's restoring the feeling. Watch Match of the Day. Obviously, after Chelsea win, you're watching everything. Watch Match of the Day. Saw the interview afterwards, and they said, "Well, what's the biggest takeaway from the game? 3 points." Left it at that. And then they were like, do you think Chelsea had the title race or something to that extent? He rolled his eyes. He goes, nah, too early for that, man. And left it at that. He doesn't feel the need, like I do, to say more words. He said it, interpret it how you want, and that's why the Liam Gallagher thing does work. I've said what I've said. You take it how you want. You can call me whatever you want, but what I said. Take me as I am. There was a feature he did for Sky, and he was talking about like GCSEs. He goes, "Yeah, I failed all my GCSEs." And the interview was like, "Nah, surely you passed PE." He goes, "Nah, I failed that one as well." He does not care, and yeah, he is rock and roll, man, and you see it in him in terms of him as a off the field. You can talk about his intelligence or whatever. I think he's very intelligent in what he does on the pitch. He is an incredible footballer, and like I said about Arsenal, they can't enjoy Bukayo Saka right now because win now.
Yeah.
Like City can't really enjoy Phil Foden. We've seen him for so long. We can still enjoy Cole Palmer. Let's not rush it. When everyone's rushing to make him or call him the best player in the world, nah, hold out. Just enjoy the journey because next season's when the pressure builds. But right now, he's the most exciting player in the Premier League, and I don't think it's close.
I think and I mean this in the best way, is that I think it's like if you imagine your field of view, right, being and then you think he's just living in a very small world, and I think that's fine. Like when he crosses that white line, his world goes from this really narrow to going and he can kind of see and feel everything because in life the things that you become brilliant at are the things that you spend 10,000 hours doing and the rest, right? And so what I like about it is that he won't be derailed because he can't see it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas other players who might kind of like, I watched this Phil Foden interview, and there was this feeling he seemed quite aware of the PR around him. Some of the questions like, "Can you believe that this and that has happened to you?" And he's sort of saying like, "Yeah, I know, it's incredible. Sometimes I just can't believe it." And it's like, whereas Cole Palmer just sort of shrugged his shoulders.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of living in the moment, which is, like you say, he needs to stay in that box. Because as soon as he becomes a bit too switched on with it, you could say this about a few players. Maybe someone like say Marcus Rashford. Like once his world like broadened a bit too much, there was maybe just being a little bit too aware of stuff instead of just staying in the moment. And I don't see him coming out of that moment.
Nah. Cole Palmer is who he is. And you mentioned players, the rush to be great. I remember after the Super Cup, Man City played European Super Cup. I can't remember who they played against. And they asked Pep after the game, Cole Palmer, he scored in that game.
Yeah.
And said, "You're going to sell him? He's going to go out on loan?" Said he's not going out on loan. He's either staying or we're selling him. The rush to be great. Cole Palmer's like, "Sell me then. Let me go. I'm not staying and biding my time and slowly being integrated into this team. I'm ready to play football right now." And if you think about, I know this is 2024, but he didn't start a league game for Chelsea until October the 1st, 2023.
Right.
And think about the output. He didn't start a game almost 2 months into the season, and he still gave 22 league goals. He is honestly a monster, and Chelsea fans say it all the time. Best player to play for a football club since Eden Hazard. Enjoy the journey because where this kid's going, again, second time I said it in the podcast, he's going right to the very top. Whether that's with us, it depends on whether we can get to the level to match his ambition. But this is a kid that won't hang around. This is a kid that, I wouldn't say he lacks sentiment, but it's his world.
It's his world.
And so if he has to move or put in a transfer request to progress in his career, he will do that. He's not beholden to the norms that other mortals are. He is Cole Palmer, and whatever he does goes, and whatever he says goes, and I love that about him.
And I just don't, when you're sort of doing this for a while, you kind of go, I know what Rashford was like in interviews and Trent was like in interviews when they were sort of 19, 20, and they kind of, obviously their agents said, go do this. And they're kind of doing it, but they're children. And then you see them kind of evolve. Liam Gallagher, you take an interview from 1995 and an interview from now, he's talking the same, he's the same character, it's the same thing. That's where I was like, that disregard that Cole Palmer seems to have for the bubble, for everything around it aside from the moment of playing. It comes back to the point of finding solutions for things. He's just feeling it out and going, well, I'll put it there then, shall I? Like it's really good fun.
And also it fell right into his lap during the Chelsea team that are going through transition.
They gave
him the keys and they made him the man. And when you watch, if you've watched anything Chelsea on their YouTube channel, he is front and center. Bear in mind, you can tell that he's been dragged to do that advert. Yeah. And then there's a really funny like Christmas advert where they're advertising coats. And at the end of it, like everyone that holds that speaking roles, and he's the star of the advert. He just stands there and smiles. But that's just him, man. A picture of him with Central C, the rapper. He's just got his middle fingers up like a scally from Manny. He's just that, that's and good, I absolutely love it, man. Like long may it continue. And Chelsea fans, don't rush it. Just enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't totally agree with that as a QPR fan, but anyway. Mikkel Damsgaard. Quick moment on him. Like, yeah, he's getting some love now. Definitely had a bit of a glow up. This is interesting. The free kick against England, which obviously everyone kind of knew him for prior to going to Brentford. He'd had some injuries before going to Brentford, and I remember reading that Brentford a few times have done this where they've kind of got. There's sometimes players that something's not totally right physically, but they kind of back their medical team to find a solution, and therefore they feel like they're going to get great value from a player that they believe can be great. And Damsgaard has had a lot of struggles with dealing with the physicality of the Premier League, it seems. But this year, he's really kicked on in a team that is really good fun, actually. They have a real go.
Most fun team to watch in the Premier
Mad,
League.
aren't
Well,
they?
at home anyway. Yeah. Away from home is a different story. But yeah, really fun player to watch. And it's interesting because the word of the pod is blossom. And I think you can relate that to pretty privilege. You get that. But unfortunately for Damsgaard, he's not necessarily the most aesthetically pleasing player to look. So he doesn't get the credit he deserves. But if you watch Brentford this season, Visa gets a lot of the acclaim and Buemo gets a lot of the acclaim. Damsgaard's been very, very good, man, and integral to what they've done. And I just think he's a player to watch because, like you said, he maybe had some physical issues. And so maybe if he makes that next step to a team that's a little bit more ambitious than Brentford, it remains to be seen. But what he does for this team and his importance to this team can't be understated.
Yeah, I don't see him going anywhere. Again, a great example of Brentford. Let's say Keane Lewis Potter as well, like another player that 2 years ago they come in and there's not that immediate impact. Even someone say like Fabio Carvalho this year is not really getting the minutes, probably down to Damsgaard a little bit. But they just slowly like pull into focus and then become like really good. And Damsgaard, they've kind of figured it out. It's very smart in terms of when to pass and when to dribble. In a team that does really sort of bomb on when they do get the ball. So yeah, well done, Mikkel. Emile Smith Rowe. I think a lot of people would have probably called this, but I think there's an interesting question in here. His market value's gone up to 23 million from 20.7 after his move to Fulham. Now, his move to Fulham has been an obvious success with increased game time and playing in an attacking system. However, due to Odegaard's injury, it's likely he would have got significant minutes at Arsenal for the first part of the season. Would this have, something else written here, but I'm going to say, do you think that would have been good for him, or do you think he's dodged a bullet by leaving in the summer, even though it was possibly to the detriment of Arsenal?
No, he's done the right thing. He's done the right thing. I think with Arsenal, you look at what Mikel Arteta's trying to do there, and like I say, they're in win now mode. So maybe he would have got minutes, but if I was an Arsenal fan, I want to see those minutes go to Wanyeri. I want to see those minutes go to other players. I think that Emile Smith Rowe, because of the injuries and unfortunate time, and that time had kind of passed, and going to Fulham and finding a home and being that man, because you're going that way. Let's be honest, no disrespect to Fulham, but you're going that way. Yeah. So you are all of a sudden a big fish in a small pond. Arsenal, it's just come from Arsenal, big signing, big money signing. You're going to be starting, you're going to have that confidence. And I feel like Smith Rowe needs that. At Arsenal, the reason why we loved him when he first broke onto the scene with Saka, bit of a maverick, low socks, give me the ball. And an Arsenal team that wasn't in the win now mode, an Arsenal team that were fighting and clawing to finish the top
looking
four.
For something,
looking for something. And this is a Fulham team that are on the low, pretty ambitious in terms of where they want to go. If you look at the signings that they make and the way that they have gone about business under Marco Silva. And so I think he dodged the bullet. I think going to Fulham was the right move for him to make. And he's still young enough to go and make that next move if it does go really well for him. So yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd say, he's been great on that left half space, more so than the right half space. So I do think he could have gone in, and I do really think he would have been useful for Arteta. I would say, if I was Arteta, I'd say that you kind of made a mistake there. Or keep someone. Keep Fabio Vieira.
Yeah, letting Vieira go to Porto.
Yeah, felt a bit funny. But yeah, I think it's one where, is his ceiling like Odegaard level? Obviously not. Odegaard's a joke, right? But I think to sort of take a backward step, as you say, to then go forwards, to get your minutes, find your confidence again, and get used to being sort of, maybe the main man for 2-3 seasons, and then you make another call in your career. I think actually if he had stayed for himself, it probably would have just slowed down that process and you would have lost another year and maybe more confidence. So, yeah, weird one.
Totally different style of play, because I think Maddison's more static in the style of play, and Odegaard, not Odegaard. Smith Rowe's more there's more movements, a little more fluid. But I feel like ceiling-wise, you can look at a player like James Maddison and be like, that's the level he can reach. He can go to a side that are ambitious and challenging for a top place in the top 4. If he has a couple of good seasons at Fulham, he's a very good player and he's still young enough to go and make that step.
It's a shame he's not. That he's played for Arsenal.
Yeah,
Tottenham would be the worst.
Yeah.
Milos Kerkez. Market value's the same. I'm fuming at this. Don't understand it. Maybe it's just notoriety.
Good, man.
Is it the mullet? Is it the mullet?
The trim is a bit dodgy, but he's good. He's good. If you're looking, again, there's a dearth of left backs in the world.
That's the one for me. That's the point.
If you want to go and get one that can take that step to the next level, go get Kerkez. Before Cucurella stepped up, I was like, oh, Kerkez, he's the one for me.
Yeah, there's a real focus down that left-hand side, which is because he's got the energy to bomb up and down. Needs to stay fit. They need him to stay fit as well. But yeah, I think he's fantastic. And I think do you know what I was thinking? But the reason I put him in is that I think if at the start of 2024, if I said to you, name 4 left backs, I don't think people say he's not on the first 4 that you say.
I wouldn't know how to spell his name.
Yeah, I think. Triple word score if you get a Z on the right one. But the fact that I think he is one of the first ones that we're kind of talking about now. Left back's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's weird space. Right
It is
now.
weird space, but there's a couple of people. I think one's coming up on this list where it's just like, yeah, there's if teams, cough cough, Liverpool, are looking for left backs to come and just give them that new impetus. I think that Kerkez is the one. I really like
he's got the energy. I really, really enjoy him. Yeah.
Semenyo helps him out though. Semenyo does help him out. Semenyo's been really good this season. I know he switches wings quite a bit, but when it's them two on the left-hand side, it works.
Definitely had a glow up. I think in the running for probably a top 3 shout here for the ultimate glow up. Jhon Duran. Everyone's like, raw? It's like no one knew anything. They just went, he's raw. What am I going to say? Well, he seems to run about a bit. Let's say he's raw because he's young. His market value's gone from 14 mil to 29 million. The run of goal scoring early in the season will see him leave Aston Villa, despite being heavily linked with West Ham in the summer and Chelsea before that. Villa kept hold of Duran as their second choice striker for the season, but he may have been a bit too good when coming off the bench, which gives Villa a headache because they now have a dilemma of either dropping Watkins here and there or allowing Duran to leave whilst his price is still at an all-time high. Thoughts on Jhon Duran? Definitely had a glow up.
Yeah, for sure. These are definitions of enigmatic. He's tapped, and I like that in a striker. He's tapped. Like there is something not quite right with him, but when he comes off the bench and he gives you those moments, I'd say for a lot of Villa fans who are maybe below the age of 35, that goal against Bayern Munich is probably the greatest goal that they've seen in Villa Park. That was absolutely incredible, and he's got that feeling of like, yeah, I belong here. I deserve to be here. And again, going back to what you said before, he is in a rush to be great. You see it when he's sitting on the bench. He's not happy. When he does start the rare game, he comes off. He's not happy. He's only 20 years old, which is crazy. But true. He wants it all, and he wants it all right now. Villa won't be able to keep him beyond the summer.
Do you know what? We were talking about Delap earlier, and I was sort of like, just wait. Duran, I just still have that. Let's just wait a second. I'm not totally.
You're not sure. You're not bought in. Why? What is it, Jim? Why are you not bought in?
It's not. I think a player that in the first 60 minutes is scoring goals, that's a different player to a player who's scoring the last 8 minutes.
That's right.
I think that's a huge part of it. So I just want to see that. I think he's obviously good. Like that's clear.
Yeah.
But you're never going to drop Watkins. So I think there's an opportunity there for Villa to get some cash.
Sure.
He's not. You're not going to drop Watkins. You're not going to get rid of Watkins for the next 3 years minimum. So it's a great little glow up for Villa maybe if they want to do it. Do you think anyone's going to go anywhere in January? It's just going to be a lot of loans.
A lot of loans. Depends on
where too smart these days.
Depends on where people are at. Depends on injuries. Depends on where people are at. Depends on, just circumstance. Really, I think you might see some movement with the teams at the bottom of the table if they're trying to. Sure. I think Leicester, for example, will go and bring in some players that fit what Ruben Nistelrooy wants to do. But the teams at the top of circumstantial. I think if Chelsea are in touch and distance, we'll go and make some moves. If Arsenal get an injury or two, they might make some moves.
Jhon Duran, right? Someone comes in and go, I'm going to offer you this. What's the number you need for them to go on then?
40.
Okay.
40.
Interesting. If you think 40 is too high, let me know. I think I agree with you. I think it's bang on. And right, last, but certainly not least. He's right in the running here, but we're going to have to make a final call, gut call. Chris Wood. Market value has stayed the same. Disgusting.
I absolutely love Chris Wood. I've let people know this before. I've been doing a feature on TalkSport for the last 3 years called Woodwatch. And when he joined Newcastle, I guaranteed it on the show. I'll do the show with Max Rushton and Charlie Baker. I said, Chris Wood's a banker for goals. At Burnley, didn't matter what manager it was, didn't matter what team it was, he'd give you double figures every single season.
Yeah.
He scored like, I think 5 goals over 2 or 3 years. Just didn't work out for him. But this year, chickens have come home to roost. Chris Wood is every time he scores, there's nothing that gives me more joy than just tweeting out Woodwatch.
Really?
He's mate. I just love him as a footballer. I love the fact that it's no nonsense. But then there can be games where he'll look like prime R9. He's a strange footballer. But what he does give you is that if he's going to start week in, week out, he's giving you double figures in the Premier League, which is invaluable for a front man like that.
He is like someone's picked someone up from the 1930s and popped him in the Premier League, and I'm here for it. I love it. He's the sort of the John. Welsh people get annoyed here. The John Charles of the Premier League era, right? So look, currently on 9 goals this year, 14 last year. He's got 12 a few years back, 10. He does. He gives you goals. He gives you options. He allows runners to get around him. We did a video on him earlier in the season, and it's his using his strengths, which is his strength, to get himself a yard here and there. That he's just very, very cute at this stage of his career. And yeah, it just didn't work, obviously, at Newcastle. And Newcastle's Saudi takeover will see Forest get Europa League this season. Because when the takeover at Newcastle took place, they found themselves in a strange spot. On one hand, they had much more money than they previously did, but they also found themselves in a relegation battle against who? Burnley and their star striker, Chris Wood. But after an up and down time at Newcastle, Chris Wood then sent on loan to Forest, who bought him permanently, and he's currently on 9 goals from 12 starts this season. So it could cost you, Newcastle. Incredible glow up in terms of like where he was at the start of the season. Although, to be fair, since kind of December last year, he has been scoring goals. But I don't think, despite the Woodwatch, most people have been giving him any flowers at all. If anything, sometimes, players that you either kind of, you give some players like the benefit of the doubt, and then some players you just sort of look to turn against. See, I'm in my turn against era with Jhon Duran. Yeah. And for Chris Wood, it feels like everyone's just kind of going, do you know what, mate? You've been knocking around for a long time.
Yeah. We're going to give you credit now.
We're going to give you the moment. So it's that time.
Mate, he'll mess around. Oh, he's 32. Will he get to 100 Premier League goals in his career? He's currently on
78, I thought.
Yeah.
Was that 78? 78, 8 assists. Oh, there was one player you did want to talk about.
Yes, and this player would be top of my list. Marc Cucurella.
It's a shout.
Like, think about the perception of Marc Cucurella in January 2024. Nobody was having him. Chelsea fans were like, this is the worst signing we have ever made, including myself. He looked like he just couldn't play football. Pochettino changes things about a little bit. He goes, I'm going to start inverting my fullbacks. Yeah. Started inverting Cucurella. I was like, okay, this is the player that we kind of saw at Brighton. He can play a little bit, but still not too sure. Goes to the Euros, is public enemy number 1 against every team he plays against, getting booed in every single stadium.
In the stadium, yeah.
Yeah, when they play against Germany, because I don't know what, he's a pantomime villain. And every game he was playing, he was getting booed.
Did he say something? He said something. He did something.
He did something, and it was against Germany. And obviously, where there's neutral German fans at other games, it just kind of changed it, and everybody started hating on them.
Right.
And then goes and gets the assist in the final, comes back for Chelsea. You're thinking, okay, and he just kicks on. He's been one of our best players this season, got an assist on the weekend against Aston Villa. Cucurella, honestly, I've never been so wrong about a footballer in my life.
It's incredible.
I thought Brighton fleeced us, but when you talk about glow-ups, from what people thought about him in the beginning of the year to what people think about him right now, I was on the phone to my mate before he came on here. He goes, best left-back in the world. I say, Louis, slow down. Louis, slow down. But Cucurella's definitely turned things around and had a huge, huge glow-up.
Okay, so top 3, for me, great pitch there, and Cucurella is in the top 3. I'm going to put Chris Wood in the top 3. And do you know what? In terms of like distance of the glow up, I'm going to put Liam Delap in there. That's my 3. Jhon Duran just missing out for me again. Turning against him. Who's in your top 3?
I'm going to put Liam Delap in there. He's going right to the very top. Have to put Chris Wood in there at number 2. And Marc Cucurella goes number 1 for me.
Okay. So my number 1. Do you know what? The pitch is so good. Winning the Euros. You're right. Cucurella, well done. Glow up of 2024. You are the victor. Congratulations. Kweku, fantastic stuff, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Appreciate it. We're going to do a video talking about the players that are going to glow up in 2025. Make sure you follow this podcast so you don't miss out on that. Make sure you follow Kweku and support everything he does. And when you see a tweet or anything that he does, you like wherever the thumb is. Look for the thumb and click on it. Support our boy. Right. We'll have another podcast later this week. Thanks for watching.